Wow, I can't believe today has come. Do you know why? Because this is episode 250. Oh my goodness. A little over 2 years ago, I decided to have a podcast. Actually, it goes back a few years before that. I always thought it would be fun to have a podcast. And you know what? That thought was accurate. I am having a blast. And even more than that, I love being able to connect with you and encourage you. And yeah, just you and your homeschool and just the messages I get here and there just continues to inspire me. And I'm excited to see where all this goes in the next 250 episodes and even more beyond that. Today's topic is perfect, just perfectly marked time. And it wasn't even intentional. It just kind of fell into place. And I was like, this is the perfect topic for episode 250. We are going to talk about helping your children just to fall in love with homeschooling because guess what? Education, it doesn't have to be boring. Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening. Before we unpack today's topic a bit more and get deep into it, I wanted to remind you of an announcement that I had made recently on the podcast is that I am going to be attending the Teach Them Diligently convention at Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. That is coming up real soon, like next week. And I am hoping to be able to connect with you if you are planning on attending. If that is you and you're saying, I'm attending and I want to get together with Leigh and get together with others that listen to Little by Little Homeschool podcast, send me a quick email at info@littlebylittlehomeschool.com. I am going to put together some type of meetup and we can all get together. I don't know, quite sure exactly where and what, but don't worry. I will then send you an email and let you know what we're going to do, where we're going to be, when we're going to do it, and it's going to be a blast. So I'd love to hear from you if you're planning on attending that conference. I had no idea that education could be fun. I mean, I guess I did a little bit because I went to school and I knew that my teachers would include some fun things in, especially in the younger elementary school years, but I felt the responsibility, a very heavy weight of responsibility when we decided to bring our children home from school and to begin homeschooling them. It just felt like there's so much that I need to accomplish and so much I need to do. And the fun was okay for the teachers in the school because they had everything else covered. So they can have some fun and cover all the stuff that they need to cover, but I can't allow too much fun because then we're not going to meet the state guidelines or they're not going to know everything that they need to know and they are going to be ill-prepared for life and I will have failed them and they will have way too many gaps in their education. You know all the things because you've thought them all. I didn't think that there was room, that there was margin for the time that we are homeschooling to be anything but boring. Guess what? I was wrong. Sometimes maybe it was boring and that was my own fault. And we have some times that we sit back and we laugh about different stories. Some of the things I don't even remember. Some of the things I didn't know was going on behind my back when it was going on. I have some mischievous children and we can laugh about it now and then I can kind of give them a look like, yeah, that really wasn't very helpful for my mental state of mind at that point. But I was able to then move from that of feeling like this is drudgery to continue to do it and the weight of responsibility and begin to let go and to realize that education can be fun. The very first place that a homeschool mom has to start when she wants to begin to make this shift is the dichotomy, the difference between school and education. If you did not listen to episode 227, I highly encourage you, whether you pause this one and go back or you listen to this episode and listen to 227 afterwards. It's going to dive way deep into this topic. We're just going to kind of gloss over it a little bit. But school versus education. School, it gets a bad rap, doesn't it? Which can be a bit accurate. But for most people, it gets a bad rap because school equals education. So school gets a bad rap. Therefore, education gets a bad rap in our culture. And I have heard many a conversation of teens that will express to each other, or maybe even to others, to adults, how they just hate school. Now, we know that a lot of teens can be a little bit more dramatic than really what's going on. Maybe they don't hate school. Maybe they just dislike it. They don't like what they have to do. They don't like the constant supervision. We were recently in our local high school to get my son's working papers, and once in a while we have to go in. We have to do some things there when it comes to, that's just the place that you have to go to get it. And so it's just kind of takes me back, and he doesn't really quite understand. It's just, you see a kid walking in a hall and an adult stops. Where are you going? What are you doing? And I get it. That can feel just like you are being just really, everything's really tight and you have no freedom. Although I would say in school, they have a lot more freedom than I had. I see kids coming and going, and so we know that they can kind of be a little bit dramatic, but there's a lot of things that they don't like about it. And I have heard specifically conversations of teens and them just talking about what they don't like about school. And I've also heard conversations of younger kids. I don't feel like it's typically the ones that are super young in elementary, like preschool and early elementary. They don't tend to say they hate school. Maybe they don't like getting up in the morning and they're just feeling a little slow in the morning. But once they get to school, their friends are there. They have a lot more margin in their days. Teachers maybe keep it fun. But as they begin to get older, it just is seen as something like, oh, there's an eye roll and, oh, I got to go to school tomorrow. And that makes me sad because to those kids, school equals education. How do I know that? Because that was me. To me, school was education, and therefore, school was boring. It was a drudgery, something I didn't want to do. Therefore, education and learning was something that was boring and a drudgery, and I didn't want to do. And I really want to see the tide turn with homeschoolers, realizing that it doesn't have to be, and openly talking about this fact. That is where the actual real true change is going to happen. And so for me, I had to do a mindset shift with that and realize that school does not have to equal education. I don't have to recreate school at home. I don't have to even recreate the feelings of school in my kids. I wanted them to love learning. Doesn't mean that we always love learning about every single thing. Maybe a kiddo is super inclined. They enjoy writing and poetry and history and the arts, and they're not really super interested in science. It's not where they're going to naturally gravitate. But they understand that there is a place in the world for learning science, and we can step into that place and show them how applicable it is and how it's good to know science and not just completely ignore it. So as I mentioned earlier, younger kids, they tend to love to learn. But unfortunately, I'm going to assume that it's the adults that are in their lives. They tend to kill that love of learning as these kids get older. And it doesn't mean that it's an intentional thing. It just, when you are in school, things begin to get harder. There's more tests, there's more papers, there's more academics and rigors that you need to be able to meet. The school needs to meet certain guidelines, teach certain things. The test scores have to be to a certain level in order to receive funding. That's the point of it, is so that the school can continue to operate. Therefore, all of this is placed upon the shoulders of the kids that attend the school. And as they get older, they begin to not like it. There's less time maybe for recess. There's less time for fun. There's more discipline for when they're talking to their friends and they're not paying attention, because if they're not paying attention, they're not going to be able to memorize the information that's needed. They're not going to know what pages to read. So therefore, they are not going to be able to pass the tests. And therefore, if too low of test grades, then the school isn't going to receive the funding, is the ultimate way that it goes, where it ends up. And maybe when we come to homeschooling, our kids can begin to dislike the education, possibly because we become too strict. And I just recently did an episode about finding our way through that strict versus flexible homeschool mom mentality, and I will link that in the show notes as well. But keep an eye out in your homeschool, in your family, with your children, for that change to occur, where they go from loving to learn to beginning to not love to learn. And then evaluate, why is that change happening? Is it you? Is it something that you are doing or not doing? Is it sometimes an outside influence? This can be difficult as kids get to be older. and they have maybe more interaction with kids that go to school and therefore don't like to go to school, they might begin to adopt those habits and that mentality and those words that those kids have. And you might begin to see that the attitude shifts in your child. And so that would be to evaluate, is it outside influences that's causing them to not enjoy their learning? Also, it could just be a child's personality. Maybe they just are a little bit more mellow or melancholy, and they're not going to be excited about everything as they begin to get older. There's hormones and everything that happens with prepubescence and puberty and a lot of changes. But I want to encourage you to watch for that shift if it does happen. Maybe it doesn't ever happen. That would be so amazing. But watch if that shift begins to happen. Have conversations with your children. Evaluate and see what's going on. Ask your husband, does he notice some differences? And get into their inner circles and find out if it's something that is being spoken into them, maybe from media, or being spoken into them from other family members, kids in the neighborhood, other kids from youth group, wherever, in all the places. But education, it should be exciting. We kind of have to balance that with the subjects that we just kind of have to do. I've openly talked about the fact that when your kids know their math, they have the foundation of their math, they can read well, they can write fairly well. That's also going to depend upon kids as well and what your focus and your goals are, that they can learn pretty much anything that they want to. And so those subjects that are important, and you might have some other subjects that are important. You might think, I really want them to understand history, or I really want them to understand science or geography. And this is just talking about the academics. Of course, we want them to understand the world and how to operate in it, and household skills, how to do chores and how to cook and how to clean and how to serve others, and digging into the Bible and having a relationship with God, all of that kind of stuff. I'm just assuming that that stuff is important to you too. We're just kind of focused a bit more on the formal academics and formal education of your kids. But some of those subjects that just aren't maybe super fun for them. Remember that child that I mentioned loves arts and poetry and history, and they just don't really love the science. This can be an opportunity for them to build their character and you to talk to them about why it's a really good foundation to know just basic science, or to know how plants grow, or to know why animals are doing such and such, whatever it is that your family is focused on. But I want you to also just listen to their interests. Let them be able to talk to you. How great would it be if a generation of homeschoolers right now feel really comfortable sharing with their parents? They don't feel like they have to hide things, and they really can tell you, the homeschool mom, how they really feel about things, what they're interested in, and then you try to make it happen. You fit it in. Find out what they're interested in, no matter what it is. Maybe it's baking and then the culinary arts. Maybe it is fine arts. Maybe it's music. What is it that they're interested in, and fit that in? Maybe it's fitting it in just to your day in and day out at home. And it's also maybe giving them opportunities. What I want to say is, like, what's the worst that can happen if you take time away from maybe something that you had planned? I want them to learn how to do this, but they really want to kind of learn how to do something else. What's the worst that can happen? Well, they become pretty well versed in that topic, in that subject. And when they feel like they've mastered it, or they feel like, well, that's enough, I'm ready to go on to something else. Really, what's the worst that can happen? Nothing. They've learned more. They've tried something. They've dug in deep into something, and you took the time to feed that. And then that momentum will build into the next thing. And whatever the next topic, whatever the next subject is, they will realize mom cares about me. She cares about what I'm interested in. And as they get older, they know that when they were younger and as they continue to get older, that you are interested in what they are interested in. They will come to you with the things they're interested in, and they will come to you when life is hard and when they have concerns and issues and problems that move beyond just your family as they get to be teens and they get jobs and they're maybe on sports teams and they're outside of the home more than they were before. But provide opportunities for them to see that education is fun and that learning is something that is enjoyable, especially in the high school years. This can obviously begin earlier. Your child is interested in become a veterinarian. Well, connect with a veterinarian and get in there. See if you can get in and watch what they're doing, or at least have a conversation with them. Maybe they're interested in becoming an entrepreneur. Find some adults that are entrepreneurs that can speak into them and just providing them with those opportunities. Because again, what's the worst that can happen? They might say, I want to become a veterinarian. Spend a day with a veterinarian and be like, I do not want to become a veterinarian. And that's okay. That's the worst that happens. We can cross that off the list. Doesn't mean that they might kind of swing back around to it as they get older and mature a bit more, but provide them opportunities. One really, really fantastic way that is often overlooked in how we can create a love of learning and show our kids that education is something that is enjoyable is by us as the parents. We continue learning. We continue to read books, to research things, to try new things. That will inspire your kids more than anything else. And if you are in the midst of raising a bunch of little kids, you might say, you are crazy. I don't have any margin to go and take up a new hobby. You don't have to take a new hobby. Maybe just read. Let them see you reading books and tell them about what you are learning about and sharing with them what you're learning about. Or maybe you're watching a YouTube series about, I don't know, horses, we'll say. And you can say to them, I didn't know that about horses. That's a really interesting fact. Them realizing mom doesn't know everything. She's continuing to learn, does so much. And as your kids begin to grow and get older, you have more time, you have more margin, then you can continue to step into new things and maybe have a little bit more time to find a new hobby. This podcasting and all of this stuff is something that really just began a couple of years ago as I began to realize I have a little bit more margin and I can see that my kids are like, that's kind of cool. And my husband steps out into some different areas that he's been doing in the past couple of years, trying out some new things and learning some different avenues. And they're just like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's kind of fun that they're not boring and just sitting at home pining over us when we're not there, watching Life 360 to see where we are. My parents actually have things going on and they find life interesting and exciting and they haven't stopped learning. So it's okay for me to not stop learning. And there's so much that we can continue to do and they can continue to do. Last thing I want to mention before we close out here is have fun together. Whether it is a field trip, whether it's going on a hike, whether it's a picnic in the backyard, whether it is just sitting and reading your science and really talking about it, have fun together. Bake the cookies, have that campfire with the s'mores, maybe go camping, maybe go on vacations or day trips, go and visit the friends, and just have fun together. Have fun even just simple things. Maybe you're in a season of life right now, you're just like, it is better for us just to be home more than anything else. Have fun with the read alouds. Find some fun books to read to them and laugh at the funny parts and tell them that you enjoy the books that you're reading to them. Have fun together. Let them build those forts with the sheets in the living room and watch a movie together, but just have fun. Have fun with the learning. Have fun with the relationship. Just have fun together as a family. And even if that fun together doesn't include any type of formal or informal learning, it bonds your relationship and it causes our kids as they get older to look to us, to turn to us for wisdom and inspiration for their life. Trust me, as a mom with teens and young adults, I can see that it was worth taking that time to have fun because they then will continue with that relationship and say, Mom and Dad were fun and I can go to them for things and I can look up to them as well. I hope this episode has encouraged you. If you didn't know, I actually have a free resource for you. The link is going to be in the show notes, but basically it is a daily chore checklist for you. You can go to littlebylittlehomeschool.com/daily chores, or again, tap that link in the show notes that you can go ahead and download that. You can print it. I find this to be a great resource when we as homeschool moms have so much that we want to do. And let's just get it out of our head. Let's put it on paper. And then guess what? We can just go ahead and do the things that we need to every single day. So this checklist is mainly focused on all of the things that just you have every single day, just the tasks that just go day in and day out. And it's something that you can use just for yourself. You can add stuff for your kids and then you can delegate who's doing what. But if you are interested in that resource, it is there for you. Have a good day, friend. And again, if you're going to be at Teach Them Diligently, let me know. Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.